Hilchos Ishus Perek Shvi'i, the laws of marriage, chapter 7. We pick up on yesterday's topic of entering a marriage on condition. Yesterday we learned the prerequisites. 4 things have to be fulfilled in order for any condition to be valid. It has to be a double expression, the positive expression before the negative expression. The verbal stipulation has to be made before the deed, and it has to be a reasonable condition. Now the Rambam is going to talk about other specific conditions that may or may not be valid when entering a marriage. The Rambam begins, Halacha Aleph ha'omer li isha. If someone tells a woman, Harei at mekudeshes li al manas sheyirtze avi. Listen, I really want to marry you, but I need to have my father's consent. He doesn't know we're in this relationship, I have to talk to him. So, you're married to me on condition that my father agrees. Ratza ha'av mekudeshes. If the father indeed agrees, she's consecrated. Loy ratza. If he doesn't want the marriage, he says, what are you talking about? You're too young, you can't get married, or I don't like this girl, whatever it is. Oisha shasak, or he's quiet. Oisha meis kaidim sheyishma hadavar, or he dies before hearing about the marriage. Eina mekudeshes. Then she's not consecrated because you said that your father has to want. And want, according to the Rambam, is expressing verbal agreement. What if he says, Al minas shelo yimcha avi? You're married to me on condition that my father won't protest. That's different than wanting. Wanting is an active desire. Here he says, as long as he doesn't protest. Shama umicha ina mekudeshes. If the father heard about it and he protested, then of course she's not consecrated. Loi micha, but if he didn't protest when he heard, oisha meis, or he dies, harezu mekudeshes, then of course, since he didn't protest, she is consecrated. Meis haben va'achar kach shama ha'av. What about if the tragic case unfolded where the son, the husband, died, and then the father heard about it? So think about it. If he doesn't protest, then the marriage was a valid marriage. And it would turn out that the guy died childless, and his new wife now has to go marry the brother. Yibum, levirate marriage, gets her into a really big situation. So in this case, milamdin ha'av sheyoymar eini reitza, the court will teach the father to say, I don't want the marriage. Because then if he protests, kedei shelo yehu Kiddushin, the whole Kiddushin, the whole consecration will be nothing. And she won't end up falling to a levirate marriage. Base. A person tells a woman, here, take this coin. You're consecrated to me on condition that I have $200 in my bank account. Okay, in those days, that was a lot of money. It's like saying today, you're my wife on condition that I have $1 million in my bank account. Oy base kur afar. Or, you're my wife on condition that I have an area of land that can grow a kor. A kor is a big measurement of grain. I have a beit kor. I have an area that can grow a kor of grain in my property. Im yesham edim sheyesh loy. If indeed there are witnesses that can attest that he has $200 in his bank account, or he has that area of land, harezu mekudeshes, she is indeed consecrated. V'imein loy, but if he doesn't have that kind of stuff, he's just hacking a chainik, as we say, harezu mekudeshes misafik. Fascinatingly, we don't say that she's not married. We don't say she is married. We say she's mekudeshes out of doubt. Why? Shema yeshloi. Maybe indeed he does have the land, or he does have the money. V'hu oimer ainli, and he's simply showing that he doesn't have, kedei lekalkala, simply to mess her up. He's a conniving man. Because what happens is, let's say right now it looks like he doesn't have the money or the property, and so the woman goes home, gets married to somebody else. And then once she's married, he comes back and says, hey, look, I actually do have the land. And you were married to me to begin with, and you married another man while you were married to me. She's seriously messed up. The kids could be mamzerim, the kids could be illegitimate. It's very big problems. This happens all the time today. Today, whenever, someone's about to get prosecuted, what's the first thing they do? Transfer all their assets, somebody else's name. Right? It's not on my name. I don't own anything. This guy may have done that. He may have transferred his assets to somebody else, or hid the fact that he owns the land, and then later he wants to come and mess up the woman, and she should demand a divorce. Because otherwise she could get messed up in 10 years from now. Yeah, it's a sad situation. Gimel, harei at mekudeshes li bazeh, al menas sheyesh li masayim zuz, a beis kur afar b'makim pleni. Here it gets a little more detailed. Tells the woman, you are my wife, on condition that I have $200 or an area of land in a certain place. For example, I have $1 million in a Swiss bank account. Or I have this kind of real estate in a very fancy place. Im yesh le ba'isei makom harezu mikudeshes. If he has that real estate or that money in that place, good marriage. V'im ein le ba'isei makom shemer. If he doesn't have that stuff in the place that he says, harezu mikudeshes misafek. Even here, she's out of doubt consecrated. Shema yesh le sham hu miskaven lekalkal. Again, maybe he really has it. He's just hiding it, and he wants to mess her up. Here they say that some people argue on the Rambam because it's very hard in a specific place, to convince somebody that you don't have something. You say in the world I don't have it, but in this place it's very hard to say. Dalid harei at mikudeshes li bazeh. Here, with this coin you are consecrated to me. Al menas she'arech masayim zuz a base kor afar. I'm going to show you $200. I'm going to show you an area of land where you can sow a core of grain. Harezu mikudeshes v'yarena. She is consecrated, and he must show her the money, or show her the land. Hera hazuzim b'yad acherim. What if he says, hey, I only said I'm going to show you $1 million. Here, look at Chaim Yankel's $1 million, or look at his hotel. Or he shows her the area of land in somebody else's field. So here the Rambam rules, doesn't work. He must show her from his own possession. Even though the words that he used were, I'm going to show you the money, he didn't say, I'm going to show you my money, but the implication is that it's his money. What if he takes a loan? I'll show you $1 million. The next day he goes to the bank, I need a loan, $1 million. Or he enters into a partnership where there's $1 million in the partnership. Or he rents the field, or he's a sharecropper, he gets a percentage in the field. And he shows her that field, that money. Again, she's not consecrated till he shows her the money or the land in his own property, his own possession. Because the implication of the word I will show you means I'm going to show you in my property that which I said to you. So you got to show her the money in your bank and the land in your possession. Hey, let's say you did have the land. You had the area of land, but it wasn't fully usable. There was big puddles, big ditches, full of 10 tfachim deep, about 30, 40 inches deep. Or rocks or stone that was 10 tfachim high. Interruption, disturbance within the field. If the ditches were full of water, they're like rocks. They don't get counted among the area of usable planting area. Because they're not fit for planting. But if they're not full of water, they're just empty ditches, then they are measured as part of the core area, because they can be planted. Commentaries talk about if you have a pit of water that isn't a puddle, it's an actual pit that you use for irrigation. That is part of the field, because it's part of the necessity of the field. Halacha vav ha'emer leisha, if someone tells a woman, Hareat mikudeshes li bazeh al menas she'ein alayich nedarim. Ooh, this is a big one. You are consecrated to me on condition that you have no vows binding you down. In the 6th book of the Rambam, there's a whole set of laws about vows. Someone takes a vow, you become forbidden to eat or do certain things. And husbands typically didn't like for their wives to be bound by vows. You enter a marriage, you should be clean. I don't want you to have any limitations. So he tells the woman, I'm only consecrating you on condition that you have no vows. And it turns out that she indeed was bound by one of the following 3 vows. These are 3 very important vows. Either she committed not to eating meat, or she committed not to drinking wine, or she committed not to decorate herself with colorful ornaments or clothing. These are 3 big ones. Eina mikudeshes. If it's discovered that she has those vows on her, the marriage is nullified. Nimtza aleh neder chutz me'elu, but if another vow is discovered, she has a vow not to eat oranges, something else other than these 3 things. Even if the husband say, no, I'm particular even about that. I don't want any vows. The marriage is valid, because these 3 are the core vows. Other than that, you don't really mind. But if originally he had said, I'm only marrying you on condition that you have no vow at all, then even if it turns out that she made a vow not to eat carob, it's also not a good marriage, because he said kol neder, no vows. In the first case, he said nidarim, vows. Okay, the main vows. Here he says any vow. Halacha zayin. Hareat mikudeshes li bazeh al manas she'ein bach mumin. Okay. In those days, women dressed very modestly, Baruch Hashem. You couldn't see much of her body. But we know that men are typically particular about women's physical appearance. So he gives her a coin and he says, you are married to me with this on condition that you have no physical blemishes. And we discover on her body one of the blemishes which does disqualify women. And we'll soon see what those are. She's not sanctified, not consecrated. If he discovers a different blemish on her body outside of those disqualifying blemishes, even if the husband says, I'm particular about that too, she is indeed consecrated because we assume that he only meant the main blemishes. What are the blemishes that indeed disqualify a woman? The general rule is, any blemish which disqualifies a Kohen from serving in the temple, disqualify a woman in marriage. In the 8th book of the Rambam, in the laws dealing with improper entry to the temple, we're going to explain and enumerate all the blemishes of Kohanim. So check that list, plus a couple of more. In addition to the disqualifying Kohanic blemishes, there are a couple more that are exclusive and unique to women. Reach ra, bad breath, or a bad odor. Vizeya, reach ra is bad odor, body odor. Vizeya, sweat, too much sweat. V'reach hapeh, bad breath from the mouth. V'koil ave, a deep voice. V'dadin gasin mechavreseha tefach. If one breast is a tefach, about 3 inches bigger than the other breast, it's asymmetrical. V'tefach bein dad ledad, if there's a handbreadth of space between one breast and the other. U'neshichas kelev v'nasa hamokim salekes, if she was bitten by a dog, and the area scarred in a way which is very, very clear. V'shuma sha'ala padachas, and a mole on the forehead. The left, you can see example of this, a mole on the forehead. Afilu esa ktana b'yesur, even if it's a very small mole. V'afilu kreva l'sa'ar reisha, even if it's right near the hair, so you can't really see it. V'afal pi she'ein baser, even if there's no hair growing out of the mole, that's a disqualifying blemish. V'zui ashuma she'yesera isha ala kohanim, that's the mole which the Talmud describes as the one that the woman has over and above the Kohanim. But if there was a mole elsewhere on the face that has hair growing out of it, or a mole as big as an isar, it's an Italian coin, about 2.7 centimeters in length. Even though there's no hair in there, like in the right side over here, this would be a big mole. On the face, that's a blemish, whether on Kohanim, whether on women. Now again, this all means that by default, if a man goes into a marriage thinking his wife has none of these things and he discovers her to have it, then the marriage is nullified. But of course, if a man accepts a woman as she is, and the marriage is okay. The point is here that if a woman used to go with like a hijab, all covered up, and then you discovered later that her face has a mole on it, that's grounds for undoing the marriage.
But she can reject it right up front if he makes those. No.
Of course she can. Yeah. Listen, you don't want me as I am? Go home. Of course she can. Halacha ches, hamekadesh isha stam. A person consecrates a woman with no stipulation. V'nimtza aleha echad min hamumin haposlin banashim. And you discover one of the blemishes that disqualify women. Nimtza aleha echad mishleisha nedarim, where you discover one of the 3 cardinal vows: meat, wine, clothing, colored ornaments. Harezo mikudeshes misafik. She's actually consecrated out of doubt. So I may have misspoke before. Yeah. We don't know whether these vows or physical blemishes are grounds enough to cause a person who didn't express concern to be concerned. So she needs to get a divorce misafek. Kichal menas she'ein aleh nadarim. If a person consecrates a woman on a condition that she has no vows, v'hoyu aleh nadarim v'holcha etzel chacham v'hitir la. She really had vows, but right away she went to a sage, a Torah sage, who has the authority to cancel vows, and he canceled the vows. Harezu mikudeshes. She's consecrated. Commentaries say she has to nullify the vows before the husband discovers their existence. But if she does it before he discovers their existence, even though when he gave the coin she had the vows on her, but she nullified them, it's okay. On the other hand though, Kidshal menas she'ein bamumin, v'hayu bamumin, v'holcha etzel reife v'ripe yisa, if he gave her the coin, saying you're consecrated on condition that you have no blemishes. She did have blemishes, but she went to the doctor who healed her, eina mikudeshes. No, doesn't work. How come by vows it does work? By blemishes it does.
Why?
So we'll soon see in a second. Avalim hisna ha'ish she'ein alav nedarim v'she'ein boy mumin. What if the man promised, I have no vows, I have no blemishes. V'hayu alav nedarim v'hayu boy mumin v'halach etzel chacham v'hitira etzel reifei v'ripai. He indeed had vows, he indeed had blemishes, but he took care of them. Went to a sage who canceled them, went to a doctor who healed them. Harezum mikudeshas. On the man's side, in both cases, she is consecrated. Why? She'ein genai la'ish b'mumin shekvar nirpu'u v'ha'isha eina makpedes al zeis. When a man heals a scar or heals a blemish, it doesn't look that bad. It isn't so disgusting, and women aren't so particular about that. On the flip side, though, as the commentaries explain it, just the fact that the woman had a blemish once causes a certain repellent to the man. He doesn't like that you have to go through a healing process. That's the Rambam's explanation. Vows are not visible. So if she went and nullified the vows, good, nullified the vows. But the blemish, even if she healed it, just knowing that she had it will bother him. Other commentaries argue, they say no, it's more of a legal difference. And it's a very interesting concept. When you nullify a vow, when a sage nullifies a vow, he has the power to nullify it retroactively as if it never happened. So therefore, if she nullifies the vows, it turns out that when he gave the coin, she actually had no vows. Whereas with the blemishes, even if she fixes them, but in the moment that he said it, she had the blemishes. So it was there. That's Rashi's interpretation.
You can't retroactively do the blemish.
Exactly. You can't retroactively heal blemish, but you can retroactively cancel a vow. Yud. Ha'aymer li'isha. A man tells a woman, Hareat mikudeshes li bazeh al menas she'etin lich masayim zuz mikan v'ad shloishim yom. You are consecrated to me, and I promise, see it on the right, I'll give you $200 during the next 30 days. Im nasan la b'sech shloishim yom mikudeshes. Of course, if he gives her the money during 30 days, she's consecrated. V'im avru shloishim yom v'lei nasan la, eina mikudeshes. 30 days pass, no money, no consecration. Hareyat mikudeshes li bezuzim elu la'achar shloishim yom. Bit of a different variation. Pay attention here. With this money, you'll be mine in 30 days. So he gives her the money now, but I only want you to become consecrated in 30 days. Even if she uses the money during that month, and so when day 30 arrives, the money is no longer there. She is indeed consecrated after 30 days. Because the money was given to her, she had benefit from it already in the beginning, and the marriage takes effect only later. Yet, if he retracts or she retracts during 30 days, since the marriage didn't yet take effect, of course she's not consecrated. Halacha Yud Aleph. What happens if somebody jumps in? Again, the guy said, with this money, you'll be mine in 30 days. He already gave her the money, but the marriage is only going to happen in 30 days. Some guy jumps in, another guy, and makes her consecrated during the 30 days. In every case, she belongs to the second guy. In the moment the second guy consecrated her, she wasn't yet married to the first guy. The second Kiddushin takes hold on her. She becomes a married woman. At the end of day 30, when the first guy's Kiddushin come into effect, they discover her in the state of already being married. That's basically like trying to consecrate a married woman, where it doesn't even take hold. So he's out the money and he has no woman because he gave her the money before. Second guy Chaptarain jumps in, he gets her. Now, that's only if he says you're going to be married in 30 days. But what if he says a bit of a double expression? You're going to be mine from now after 30 days.
First right of refusal.
So he says also from now. And somebody comes and consecrates her during 30 days. Now, we don't know which one to follow. He said, you're mine from now and after 30 days. Which is the main one? From now or after 30 days? Someone comes in the middle, there's a doubt. And she belongs to both of them. In doubt, both must give her a divorce. Ben forever. Huh?
Forever.
No, till the divorce. If she gets a divorce, then she's good. Truth is, it seems like she could even give, if she wants to marry one of them, she only needs a divorce from the other guy. She doesn't have to get a divorce from both. She wants to marry a third person, sure, get a divorce from both. The point is that Rambam is saying she belongs to both of them equally, and they both have to release her by giving a divorce. A guy says, bottom of the chart, first guy says, you're mine from now, after 30 days. You're consecrated to me from now, after 20 days. That's the second guy. Third guy says, you're consecrated to me from now, after 10 days. Even if there are 100 in this order, all of the Kiddushin take hold. Why? Even though over here, his 10 days finish before 20 or before 30. But nevertheless, since these guys said from now, they said me'achshav, so there's an element where their Kiddushin already takes hold now. Kiddushay kulon toifsin ba. All the Kiddushin take hold of her. Utzricha get mikol echad ve'echad. She requires a divorce from each one. Mipnei she'i safek mikudeshas lekulan. Because she is doubtfully consecrated to each one. Yud Gimel ha'omer li'isha, if some man tells a woman, hareyat mikudeshas li chutz mipleni. Interesting condition. I want you to be consecrated to me with the exception of that guy. The word mikudeshet means separated from the whole world, exclusively mine. So you're separated from everyone, exclusively mine, except for one other guy. Kalemar, shalete asir alav, I don't want you to become prohibited to him. Elotia eshes ish al kala ilam v'li pleni kipnuya. You'll be a married woman to the whole world, but to that guy you'll be unmarried. Harezu mikudeshes misafik. She is only consecrated out of doubt. Because in a certain way, it's an impossibility that he's asking for. You can't do that. If you make her consecrated, she's exclusively yours. And so in that way, you might be violating the Torah, in which case, we don't care about your condition. What? On the other hand, since you said it, maybe it does go into effect, and therefore you're not married. So we're not sure if you're married or not married. Avalim amarla, but if he tells her a very explicit language, harez at mikudeshes li, al menas sheti muteres li plaini, you are consecrated to me on condition that you're going to be permitted to that guy. Harezu mikudeshes v'tiya sura alav kishara am. She is consecrated, and yet she becomes forbidden on everybody, like everybody else, even that guy. Because he did a condition with something that she cannot fulfill. Remember, this is yesterday's chart. I'm just going to bring it up again, because it's super important to always remember when it comes to conditions. You need the four things. And this is a violation of the green box here. It's an unreasonable condition. Yudalid hanoisein shtei prutes leisha. A man gives 2 coins to a woman. Again, weird situation, but we got to discuss it because it's halachic issues. The Amar Allah, he tells her, Hareyat mikudeshes li hayayim be'achas. One of these coins is for your marriage to me today. Ube'achas la'achar she'agar sheikh. The other coin is for you after I divorce you. So we're going to get married. I'm going to divorce you. Take the second coin. That's going to make you remarried to me. Harezu mikudeshes. She is consecrated. And when he divorces her, she'll still be consecrated. Till he divorces her a second time from the second round. You know, maybe he wants to fulfill the mitzvah of remarrying your divorcee. So he says, I'm going to marry you, then I'm going to divorce you, and I'm going to remarry you right away.
It's a mitzvah to remarry the divorcee?
It's not a mitzvah to do it, but there's a mitzvah if you do it.
No.
In other words,
I get that.
If you divorce your wife, and then you reconcile, and whatever there's reasons, and you come back together, you get a mitzvah.
Yeah, but the thing is that if she's had relations with somebody
yes.
else, then that's fixed.
If in the interim she goes to someone else, then it's not allowed. But let's say it's not. But if you tell a woman, he was non-Jewish, and he gives the woman a ring, he says, look, I'm becoming a convert tomorrow. You're going to be married to me after I convert, with this coin. Or after you convert. Let's say she was non-Jewish. Or let's say he was a slave or she was a slave. He says, here's the coin. After I become freed, after you become free, we'll be married. Nasty guy. Here's this coin for you after your husband dies. See you then. We'll be married. Or after your sister dies. Because he was married to her sister. You can't marry two sisters at the same time. Listen, after your sister dies, here's the money for your marriage. In all these cases, though, eino mikudeshes, no consecration. Because right now he cannot do the Kiddushin. When you're a non-Jew, you cannot do Kiddushin. Only when you're a Jew. When you're a slave, you cannot do Kiddushin. When you're married to the sister, you can't do Kiddushin. It's an impossibility. So therefore, it doesn't work. A person tells a woman waiting for Yibum. Remember, Yibum is A woman is married to a guy, he dies childless, she has to marry his brother. While she's waiting, she's called a yivama. She's kind of in the wings. Someone goes over to this woman while she's in the wings, and he says, this is the money, you're going to be consecrated to me after your yavam performs chalitza, because the brother doesn't have to marry her. He can do what's called chalitza. Take her to court, she takes off his shoe, spits, a whole thing, and then she's released from the bond. So right now she's in the bond. But he says, look, after chalitza, you're going to become mine. Harezu mikudeshes. In fact, she is consecrated. Hoyil v'ilu kidsha ata. Hoyil kiddushin tefsin b'misafek. Since, as we saw a couple of days ago, if he were to consecrate her in this state, she would be consecrated out of doubt. So if indeed the guy does chalitza and she's released from the bond, the consecration goes into effect. Tezayin ha'omer lachavera. If someone tells his friend, im yolda ishtecha nekeva, harei him mikudeshes li bazeh. Okay, wow. Your wife is pregnant. If she gives birth to a girl, that girl is my wife. With this money. Lo yamar klum. That doesn't work. Because the girl wasn't born yet. But if the wife of the friend was already pregnant, and the baby is already showing, then it is consecrated. Because in a way, the girl's already here. She's already visible.
But he doesn't know it's a girl.
I know, but he says if it's a girl. But since the baby is showing, so it's already here in a certain element.
Knows that this idea, and it's a boy.
No, then of course it's cancelled.
Yeah.
No, then it's cancelled, yeah.
It's kind of like,
It's a mistaken condition. V'yera li, it seems to me though, says the Rambam, shetzarich lachzeru lekadesh isa achar sheteled al yedei avia. After the girl is born, you have to redo the Kiddushin through the father. Kadesh yachnis isa b'Kiddushin she'en b'hem daifi, so you bring her in with a Kiddushin that has no fault. Yud Zayin. Ha'emer leisha, a man tells a woman, hareat mikudeshes li b'meir dinarin. You're going to become mine with $100. V'nasan la afilu dinar echad, and he only gives her just $1. Harezu mikudeshes mishalakcha dinar. She's immediately consecrated the moment she takes that first coin. V'hu sheyashlim lahashar, provided of course that he finishes and gives the full 100. Shezek kemisha amar hareat mikudeshes li b'dinar zeh al menas sha'ashlim lach meir dinarim. It's as if you said, here you're married with this coin on condition that I will fill up the other $100. Shehi, which in that case, shehi mikudeshes le'me'achshav, she is consecrated from that moment. Because the moment she takes the first coin, she already shows agreement.
There is no time frame.
Yeah, no time frame. When do we say that if he said just the word $100? But if he clearly said, you're consecrated to me with these $100, he begins counting into her hand. She's not consecrated till he finishes the last of the $100. Even in the last coin, they can both retract. Or if you discover that you're lacking, you only have $99. So one of the coins is copper, not silver. The whole thing is out. If an outdated coin is discovered, it's not circulating anymore. If she can spend it with pressure, with difficulty, there's a way to get it on the market, then just switch it out and it's good. But if not, the whole Kiddushin is invalid. Yudches Amar, a person tells a woman, I want you to become consecrated to me with these clothes that are worth 50 dinar. He gives the number. And they were made out of silk. Women love silk. If they were actually worth 50 coins, she is consecrated from the moment she takes the clothes. No need to get an appraisal in the market. And only then have the consecration go into effect. So she can rely on it? No. No need for an appraisal. Since the basic market value is $50, as he said, she is consecrated from the first moment, because women love silk, so she gave her mind with that love, with that desire. If they aren't worth 50 on a basic market level, no consecration. A man and a woman were talking about marriage, trying to reach an agreement. He says, I'm going to make you consecrated with $100. No less than 200. I don't agree to a marriage less than $200. And they went home. Then they came back and asked each other out and gave a Kiddushin with no stipulation. How much does he have to give? If the man sought out the woman, yasu divrei isha, they follow the woman because you came back, so it means you want her terms. If the woman seeks the man out, you go with the man, $100. Chaf. A person makes an agent to consecrate a woman. And the agent goes and makes the kiddushin, but he makes a condition. No consecration. Because he didn't do what the guy said. When an agent acts on his own volition, he becomes detached from the sender. Same thing. If the guy says, make her kiddushin on condition of X, and he goes and makes a kiddushin with no stipulation, or a different stipulation. Or he changed the condition, changed the wording. The whole thing is invalid. Why? He's acting on his own accord. Omar la, if the sender tells the agent, I want you to consecrate her to me there, specific place. And he goes and consecrates her in a different place. No kiddushin, because he said that place. Get her for me. She is in that place. He didn't say get her for me in that place. He just gave her the location. Give him the location. And he goes and consecrates her in a different place. Then it works. Because you're simply showing him the location. Same on the flip side. A woman tells her agent, get my kiddushin money in a specific place, and the shliach gets it somewhere else. No kiddushin. If she says, look, the guy is in that place, and she ends up getting it in a different place, it works because he's just telling her the location, not where the kiddushin has to take place. Chav beis. A person consecrates a woman, and right away, either he or she retracts. Even if it's within the time it takes to say Shalom Alecha Rabbi, 2.5 seconds. The retraction is nothing, and she remains consecrated. Because the actual act was done with no conditions. A person makes a consecration on condition. A few days later, he says, you know what? I delete the stipulation. Even if he cancels the condition just between him and her, with no witnesses, the condition is indeed cancelled, and she remains consecrated by default with no stipulation. Either same thing if she made the condition, and she cancelled it between him and her, the condition is cancelled. Therefore, if somebody makes a consecration on condition and then consummates the marriage or has relations, even though it wasn't yet fulfilled, we say the woman needs a get. Even if the condition never was fulfilled. Because probably when he consummated the marriage, in his mind, he canceled the condition. I should say verbally, but in other words, the idea is he canceled it before he consummated. Same thing if somebody uses an illegal method. He consecrates a woman with less than a pruta, or with a loan. And then with witnesses watching, he goes and has relations. She needs to have a get. Because we say that he relied on these relations. He wants to consecrate her with these relations, not with the previously disqualified kiddushin. Because we have a principle that Jews do things right. A kosher Jew would never do. If a man is engaging in relations and he can do it in a proper way, why would he do it in a promiscuous way? So here too, by having relations, you're showing your intent that you're doing it right. And the commentaries say today with premarital relations on the rise, when people do it with a promiscuous intent, then we don't say that. But here he's doing it for marriage. He's going into it for marriage, so we assume that it's done with the purpose of marriage, and the fact that there was a disqualified kiddushin before is of no consequence.